The 1890 census has been destroyed. What are we going to do? We just received word that you can turn to historical newspapers to overcome the gap between 1880 and 1900 caused by the 1890 census. Stay tuned. Howdy, I'm Devin Noel Lee, and this is Family History Fanatics. I like to have a little fun on this channel, and one of the fun things I like to do is collaborate with other genealogists. I am working with Lisa Leeson from Are You My Cousin, and this is episode 6 of our series, How Do You Overcome the Fact That the 1890 Census Was Destroyed? If you have missed any of our previous episodes, be sure to look in the description and in the info cards that will pop up on screen, and you'll find a link to the whole playlist. In this series, our goal is to help you take the overwhelm out of searching the 1890 census record collection. And today, as you might have guessed it, we're going to talk about newspapers. Now, city directories are my favorite record collection, and Lisa Leeson told us about that in our 3rd episode. You want to go check that out. And then my next favorite record collection now is searchable newspapers, and I have to emphasize searchable. Newspapers have what we generally expect to find as genealogists. We have birth announcements. Some of them are very brief and don't name the child, just girl. Sometimes the entry for birth is a little more robust, especially if something strange happened. The other things you can find are wedding announcements. Sometimes your wedding announcements is really just a record of the marriage licenses that were taken out at the courthouse that was listed in the newspapers. And if you're lucky, then there are articles about who married whom and who the relationships are, and sometimes full details of what people wore and what was said. And then there are death entries. Sometimes you'll find an article, sometimes you will find an obituary, and occasionally it's just a quick line that said somebody died, and it's very, very brief. But we expect to find birth, marriage, and death information in newspapers. But there's more. It's a newspaper. There's a lot more, and you're overlooking it. So let's see what else there is. Now, this is sort of tied to the wedding information, but I love when we have anniversary articles because they tell us things like they've been married 50 years and all these relatives assemble, kind of like Avengers. But really, all of these relatives assembled, and when you see all of those names, did you get everybody for your family tree? You can pick up Ancestor Stick you had forgotten about. So check out these wedding anniversary articles that are in the newspapers. You can also find clues on divorce. You will see some that are filed for. You can see some that were granted. And if it's a major case with a lot of interesting information, then there will be an article about it as well. Now, another fun thing that helped me research the biological ancestor of mine, Agnes Anderson, and figured out where she was before she gave birth to my grandmother, and why this guy, R.P. Sparks, signed her death certificate. From those personal things. Sally Jones went and visited her aunt in this place. Bob Smith went somewhere and visited his relative. And on and on and on. The social comings and goings, don't overlook them, because the clues of who they're visiting are your ancestors. And they're taking place in the gap of 1880 to 1900 and beyond. You will also find real estate transfer information. Now, newspapers did a very good job of keeping track of who transferred information to whom, and that can lead you to further court records. So be sure to check out newspapers. Military information. The Spanish-American War took place in 1898, and newspapers in your area may have listed the military information, and you'll want to check it out. If you had an immigrant ancestor, you want to go and research the ship name if you've discovered the name of the ship they migrated on, because here's a record that told me when my ancestors came from Germany over to the United States, they couldn't disembark for a while because their ship was on quarantine because of some illness that many of the passengers were experiencing. Pretty cool. Now this last one is pretty cool. I never would have found this one without searchable newspapers. And that is the fact that I have an ancestor. His name is Richard Townley, and he was a police officer in Cincinnati, Ohio. And this article tells about how he got stabbed, but don't worry, he wasn't fatally wounded. Great article. And you'll also find some of the antics our ancestors did that are a little less than present. But remember, fake news happened back then, so don't always take everything as cold hard facts. Some things might carry a little bias. Now, where are you going to find your newspapers? You're going to find them at the Library of Congress. Their search engine's a little wonky, but it's worth checking out because it's free. Now, you can find subscription sites like newspapers.com and Genealogy Bank. And what's great about them, even though their search forms can be a little wonky, they're not all built the same. But you can save your articles and clip them to your account. I really like that. But with newspapers.com, you can then save them to your ancestry tree. And some of the big players also have newspaper collections. MyHeritage has one. Find My Path has a newspaper collection. Ancestry.com has a limited newspaper collection. Now, how do you find them? You know, sometimes you can navigate using their navigation system, but Google is my friend. Often I will say newspaper collections, find my path, and then it will bring me straight to this page, and then straight to the portal page with the search forms, and then I can search for Find My Path. Works the same with MyHeritage as well as Ancestry. So we just wrapped up episode 6. So my question of the day is, what are your favorite newspaper discoveries? They can be in the 1880s to the 1900 gap or outside. Once again, I'm Devin Noel Lee with Family History Fanatics, and I am partnering with Lisa Leeson from Are You My Cousins to bring you an 8-part series about how to find your records, even though the 1890 US Census, for the most part, does not exist for the vast majority of individuals. If this is your first time here and you enjoyed this series, please click on the red subscribe button, and then you will be asked to click on the bell if you're on mobile, or you'll need to click on the bell if you're on desktop. That allows you to know when a new video is released and when we go live on this channel. We also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, and you'll receive this free guide for 10 online resources that you have to try for your genealogy. You get that free when you sign up for our newsletter, and I'll also put a link to the freebie that Lisa Leeson is giving away if you sign up for hers as well. Stay tuned to episode 7, where Lisa talks about land records.